Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Housekeepers podcast, the cleanest hour in podcasting with your host, me, Ralph Peterson. And we have two guests on today with an incredible piece of technology that you are going to want to sit down and listen for because this is going to be a fantastic show. Robert Friars. Did I say that right? Friars?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
You're on my right. And then Arron, who I've spoken to a ton of times. Arron Rodrigues is on my left. Hello, Arron.
Hello.
So you guys are all the way in England right now, right? What part of England are you guys in right now?
We're in Cambridge.
In Cambridge, which is where? Is it north, south, east, west?
About 50 miles north of London.
Okay, so 50 miles north of London. That helps give me kind of a geographical locator in my head. That's really nice. And you guys have created a early detection system for bed bugs.
That's right. Yeah.
Which in the cleaning industry is right up there with microfiber mops. That is quite an amazing discovery. That's super helpful. So before we get too far into the technology piece, because I'm super interested in deep diving, trying to find out how this works, how to get it, what the reporting is like, because bed bugs, as you know, I mean, I did not know, I gotta be honest with you, I did not know bed bugs were such a big problem in England as it is here in the US. Yeah. But in the U.S., it's a huge problem. We have a big problem with the bed bugs.
No, it's all around the world now. But,
yeah, I guess so. So let's start. I like to start all the way back at the beginning. So, Robert, you are the CEO of Spada.
That's right.
S-P-O-T-T-A. Spada. Yep. Is it Spada Technologies?
No, just Spotta.
Just Spada. Okay. So Spada, and you're kind of like am I right to say you're the one who created?
I'm one of the founders, yeah. So it's myself and Neil, the two founders of it. Back in 2018, we started.
Oh my God, this has been around since 2018, and I'm just hearing about it now.
So we've come onto the market more recently than that.
What is happening?
That's when we started really developing the product.
So, if you don't mind, Robert, let's start with you. Like, did you grow up in Cambridge? Is this where you're from?
Yeah, so actually, Neil and I, we both studied here. So we're both engineers by background. It's information theory, machine learning on his side, me, electronics and designing products on that. And we've been working together for about 10, 11 years now, doing a bunch of different things. But our background really has always been in very low power precision sensors for a whole bunch of different things. So we did stuff in Formula One, in medical implants, in renewable energy. But the common theme always was sensing things that are really hard to detect with a really, really low cost and with really low amounts of power.
Yeah, I like that because the usability is huge. I remember hearing, just to go on that line of thinking, I remember hearing how there was a whole, millions of people, for 4 million of people for a lot of years now, hundreds of years, the advancement of technology just never reached them, because of the restrictions and how labor intensive it is to run cables and wires and all that.
Exactly.
And then with the advent of cellular technology, all of a sudden, a single pole in the middle of the desert gives everybody access to the whole world. And so I appreciate that whole low battery, the low power necessity to be able to run some kind of bandwidth.
Yeah, so and of course at that point we didn't know we were going to end up making insect monitors, but that was our grounding and how we ended up becoming pretty expert in that field of designing those sort of things. And it was around 2015, 2016 we ended up speaking to, just through our work at the time, speaking to one of the big pest control companies, and the idea they were talking to us about as technology developers of could we make a smart rodent trap for them, and their idea of a smart rodent trap was kind of stick a light on top of it to tell me if it's got a rat in it.
Oh,
we went away and thought, that is the better mousetrap, sure, but we can do something a bit cleverer here. Let's go right back to basics of what is the fundamental problem with any of these infestations. It's actually early warning, right? There's a huge range of different things you can do once you know the things are there, but if you don't catch them early. And this is so true, particularly in insects, where you get that exponential growth. And as a scientist, I don't mean exponential, just meaning very fast. I mean actually exponential. If you've got 2 of them, there will be 4, then there will be 8, then there will be 16. And before you know it, you've got tens of thousands of the things there. So
within a day or two.
Yeah, well, a few weeks in bugs. But very quickly, before you know it. And by the time you realize, it's already on that really steep curve up, and it's going to be so hard to eradicate them. And that's true. That's true. It's very true in bed bugs, but it's actually true in a lot of other insects as well. So we started thinking, can we build a technology that can be that early warning system and will tell you right back at the early stage where there are only a handful, and get in early and deal with them so that they don't have that chance to spread. They don't move between rooms. They don't get into the ducting and all the way up into the the fifth floor from the first floor without anyone.
Did you solve the mousetrap issue? Did you hear me? Did you freeze on me? Well, listen, we're going across the ocean over here, so perhaps we are having a little bit of difficulty, but this is super fascinating. I'm very interested in not just how they, what he's getting into let me make sure you're still there. Getting into the aspects of how they discovered the need to work backwards and say what actually is going on with, not just how to detect bed bugs or rats and let you know that there was a rat in the trap. That's why I was asking to just go backwards. I'm just curious if somebody was like, hey, could we just get, oh, there you go. It's just going to be me for a second here. Can you just get a detector system so I know that there's a rat in the trap? And then they kind of unpacked it and they went backwards and they're like, wait a minute, let's try to figure out how to actually prevent, or when, instead of detecting if there's a rodent in the trap, can we prevent or predict when there's the first rodent in the trap? Because one rodent will get another rodent, which will get another one. And the same thing, again, I guess they followed that course of thinking. And so the same thing is with bed bugs and many other insects. I hear they're back on. Here we go.
Sorry about that. I think we've had some big electrical storms over this way.
It's the internet. You know what we're supposed to do with the internet, right? We're supposed to breathe. We're supposed to relax, and we're supposed to go with it, right? So if you unplug, you plug back in. Yes. No big deal.
Okay. Sorry.
So what we were saying, you were talking about that somebody came to you initially when you talked to a pest control guy, and they were asking, can you build some kind of a mouse trap where you can just let us know that there's a mouse in the trap, which is very helpful because you think about all those rudimentary mouse traps, you have to go check them. And how often do you check them? I mean, sometimes I've set mouse traps that I didn't check until I smelled something bad. I was like, there's a bad odor in here.
Yeah, you're right. So, I mean, in that case, they weren't even thinking as big as telling it remotely. It was literally, I just saved me from opening it. But yeah, there are people out there who are doing that for rodents. And with rodents, they're much bigger. You catch one, you have to do something with the trap. It's a very different setup. Whereas actually with insects, it's completely different. That you want to have something that you can leave forever, basically. The idea is you never have to touch it. It can stay there forever, and it's watching continuously, and it will tell you when there's an issue. Now, we're not quite there. Someone has to go and touch our things once a year, so it's not quite forever, but it's pretty infrequently. Whereas conventional traps, you've got to go and look at them every week or every few days, which,
And so your idea, you started with that somebody came with you with asking about a mouse trap or an early detection, or not an early detection, but a detection. And you're like, what about early detection?
Yeah.
What about, how do you prevent, like one of the ways to prevent any kind of infestation, which you've already keyed into, is finding them early. Yeah. The earlier you find infestation, the quicker you're going to be able to get a handle on it.
You're absolutely right. And it's so true for anybody who provides any sort of residential accommodation services. Like, you can't prevent them. They come in with visitors, with people staying, with your residents, whatever it might be. Like, there's absolutely nothing. And, I'm sure all of your listeners will sick to the back teeth of people associating bed bugs existing with poor cleaning practices. And we all know as professionals in the industry,
it's not true.
True at all. That there's nothing you can do to prevent that. They are going to come in. The only way you stop doing that is by stop having residents, which isn't great.
Or stop having customers, right? Because
exactly.
It is bed bugs have become a reputation killer.
Yeah.
I mean, that you go to these apps, you can go to Yelp or some other review app to a hotel, and if there's any speculation of a bed bug, the place is deemed should be condemned. I would never stay there. I would never have anybody over there. And it's not like the hotel went and ordered bed bugs online, got free delivery from Amazon.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't come in with their clean linen in the morning.
No, it does not. It does not. And so it always comes from a customer.
Yeah.
And in a hospital, it's the same thing. Hospital, nursing home. Yeah. And I got to tell you, when we hear, oh my God, somebody's complaining they got bit, that's our indicator. Somebody gets a trail line biting up the leg.
Yeah.
That's the indicator for bed bugs. And, we call in the National Guard and we try our best to clean it. And I never even gave it a thought that there'd be a way to detect early. Imagine being notified that there's bed bugs in the room before the customer knows.
That's the key thing.
Oh.
Well, you don't have to imagine now, Ralph. That reality is here.
Thank you for talking, Arron. Arron, how are you? That's nice. Let me just quickly touch base with Arron.
Arron, I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, I'm a little bit tired. I have 2 small kids, and I had my second COVID jab this morning, which is very good, and I'm very grateful for. But I'm also feeling sleepy and achy because of it. So excuse me if I'm a bit sleepy and achy. But
I got to tell you that I did really well on the first shot. But the second shot, I went to sleep. It really wiped me out.
Yeah, they said this. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I did choose to have my jab this morning, despite the fact that we were talking to you, Raph. But I thought you'd understand. So
I definitely understand. I'm a big fan of vaccinations. So when you work in healthcare, it's hard not to be a fan of vaccinations. Anything you can do, even though sometimes it might not seems counterintuitive, but the last thing I want to do is spread stuff among other, patients and residents.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the things you just said, Raph, actually just reminded me of some of the stories we're told when we talk to hotel managers, and we talk to, VPs of operations or VPs of risk management, whatever it may be in hotels, which is that, you said, look, you get the bad review. That's really bad for the hotel's reputation. But then it's actually what happens after that. And basically, you'll be very familiar with this. There's basically a vicious cycle or a downward spiral. You get bad reviews. All of your basically your room rate has to drop to achieve the same occupancy. Actually, that's sometimes not enough. Your occupancy drops, your RevPAR drops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a downward spiral, and it's really demotivating. One of the people we work with is a former head of talent at a major one of the major brands, and he said, it really ruins some people's careers because they think, look, there's nothing we could have done about this.
Mm-hmm.
We did our best. We did everything by the book. We followed all the brand guidelines. We got the pest control at the right time, everything else. But actually, they still get hurt by it. And in some cases, it's just luck. It's just you happen to be in a hotel. There's a lot of international visitors, and they happen to stay for a short time, and they happen to bring in a lot of bed bugs, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's really personal for some people. So there's the financial aspect.
You're so right. I've lost count of the number of conversations like that we've had over the years. That
I remember
not go into these businesses, is it? You go in to look after people, give them a great time, make sure they're well cared for. Nobody goes into that industry to be shouted at the front desk because someone's come down with a row of bites.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Anything to prevent that is.
I remember the first time I saw a store. It was actually a department store, not like a big name department store, but like a local store. And there was a big sign out front one day, and it said "Under New Management." Yeah. And I thought, what a weird thing to advertise. Under new management. It seemed kind of like you hired a new manager. Like, why would you advertise that?
Yeah.
And then, I realized later that what they were doing was they were trying to overcome the reputation of the last management team. And you see that in hotels where they literally have to rebrand themselves.
Yeah.
They're no longer that hotel. Now they're this hotel. Yeah. And this hotel, by the way, doesn't have a reputation or a history of bed bugs, even though it's the same buildings.
Yes, the same building, same customers,
same owners, same staff, just a different logo. Yeah.
So that's a huge cost, a huge undertaking to undo a bad reputation from bed bugs. I mean, imagine having to rebrand yourself. Sounds terrible.
In that particular case as well, where you're fighting to be on the first page of TripAdvisor, You know, to reset, the pain of resetting to 0 on there and have to crawl your way back up is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Arron, you said you had 2 kids at home. How old are they?
They are 3 and nearly 1.
Wow, I'm surprised you were even able to get away from the house.
Yeah, well, it was touch and go. It was touch and go this morning. But thankfully, it's the summer holidays, the school holidays here, so thankfully they're being looked after by their grandparents and great grandma.
Wonderful.
Yeah, which is good. So
gotta love grandparents.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. But it's. I mean, I think one of the things that I really care. Well, one of the reasons actually I joined Spotta. So I haven't been here since the start, as I explained to you before, Ralph. I worked in consultancy for some time and helped very large companies adopt new technologies. And now I'm sort of on the other side of the fence, thinking, okay, hang on, here's a set of technologies beyond the bed bugs as well. And we should say,
Arron, that you're in charge of growth. So that's your whole MO is you're trying to sell this thing, right? So you're in charge of the business development aspect of Spada, right? Okay. So if we don't get any sales out of this, it's all your fault. And if we do, you're the hero. Can we agree?
Sure. We'll see if it works out, and then we'll decide on that. How about that? But by the same. Thanks, Ralph. Well,
you're welcome. I'm just putting it into perspective here.
Thanks for saying that in front of my boss. That's true. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm telling you, you have the opportunity to be a hero. This is, by the way, I think it's right up there. It's one of the best pieces of technology I've ever seen. So I'm very excited about it.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, and honestly, that's one of the things that attracted me to join, actually, and to try and help this team with exactly this challenge, because I thought, you know what, I mean, I'm an engineer myself as well. I also studied at Cambridge University, but my strengths don't lie in actually building the things, but more in actually helping to figure out how they can be useful and helping people to adopt them and buy them and grow the use of them. So that's when I thought, you know what, this is it's actually a really good thing, and it's very applicable to many different situations. Like you said, Ralph, in care homes, it's just, it makes a huge difference, actually. And I just thought the way in which the guys had designed it, Robert Neal and the team had designed it, was just so smart, because as you said, Ralph, they said from the start, look, we can make a cool piece of technology, but if it's not practical, if it's not cost effective, if it's not easy, if it's not simple, no one's going to adopt it. So let's design the right thing first time from the start. Let's get a lot of feedback from hoteliers. Let's get, and make sure that this is a product that can be scaled globally and used in a range of different situations. And I just thought that's really smart, because I've seen it from the other side of the table, with very large companies looking at new technologies, thinking, well, hang on, why have they designed it that way? This is never going to work for us. And I just feel like these guys have done a really good job.
I agree, especially since you guys have not worked in hotels.
No,
and you've never worked in a hospital or a nursing home. And so I think I too, when I'm looking at the software and I'm looking at the product, I'm like, oh, this is pretty smart, where you could have easily gotten it wrong. Great idea, wrong application, because you don't have any experience, but you definitely didn't. So that's pretty impressive.
Well, it goes back to your question you asked earlier, actually, Ralph, about how why so long between when we had the idea and actually.
I was only playing. I know it takes a while.
No, it's fine. But we basically spent a year going out and talking to everybody who might be involved in using it. Anyone in hotels, in housing authorities, in hospitals. And covering that whole range of understanding, because we knew we didn't know much about that the applications of what actually matters there. Is it okay to use Wi-Fi? Well, no. The answer is very definitely is not okay to do that. Is it okay for it to be plugged into a wall? No, it really isn't. You've got to build the technology to meet the needs of the customer and make sure it does what it needs to do, and design the product in the right way. And we really made sure we took our time to do that before we got anywhere near any sort of design work, so that we could have confidence that by the time we got to the finished product, it was going to be what people actually wanted and was going to solve the problem for them in the right way, rather than, as Arron says, it just being a clever bit of technology but ends up being a white elephant that isn't really.
So let's talk about how it actually works. So your whole idea, which is just a great way to approach it, how do we kind of develop a program or a piece of equipment that can early detect? So how do you early detect a bed bug?
Yeah, so, and it's very core. It goes right back to actually understanding what bed bugs do, how they interact with people, how they interact with furniture, and where are they in present rooms. And I'm sure your listeners who've had the misfortune of coming across them will know exactly, the classic places you find them in and around the bed. It's behind the headboard, it's in the head end of the box spring, it's underneath the mattress.
This is what it looks like for those who are interested. So it literally goes on the underside of the bed, and there is a way, I'm just going to show it here. There's a way for a bed bug to get inside, right?
That's right.
It's like a little, almost like a roach motel. It gets in and it can't get out.
more like a roach spa, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, go ahead. So so they hang out in beds, obviously, because the person's bringing it in, and the person usually has it on their body.
Yeah, or in their luggage.
On their clothes, yeah.
Those are the classic ways. Yeah, coats, luggage, that sort of thing. Yeah. And you come in, you throw your bag on the bed. The first thing you do when you arrive, you unzip, you throw everything out, and that's where they get in. Mm-hmm. So that is and then they like to be around where they're going to find food, obviously. They're called bed bugs for a reason. You do find them in other places, but usually that's later on, because they'll start off clustered around where there's food. The person in the bed. They only really feed at the dead of night when the person's fast asleep. They don't like it when people are moving around. They don't like it when the lights are on. So we designed our product, and we were amazed when we dug into this that actually nobody's designed a product that goes underneath the mattress at the head of the bed. All the other products out there are on the floor, they're under the legs, they're in the bedside table.
They're on the wall.
Yeah, they're on the wall. It's just, that's not where they are. I mean, they will get there eventually, sure. But if you want to catch them early, you want to be where they're going to be on day 1, not where they're going to be on day 20. So a pod, as you said, that fits, sits on the box spring, underneath the mattress, head end of the bed. That is route 1 between where they're going to be hiding and where they might go to try and find food. So you can put that, and that instantly gives you a massive leg up in terms of catch rates. The other things we spend a lot of time thinking about are how are the bugs going to interact when they encounter this. So the pheromones that we use, the shapes, the colors, the textures. So we have a PhD entomologist on staff who spends most of his time trying to get into the mind of a bed bug and work out where they're going to move and how they're going to interact with our products. And doing that in a way, once they're inside, they then trigger a vision system. So there's an image sensor. It only sees the inside of the pod, so there's nothing else in the room. And that triggers that. We analyze that image. It works out, is it a bed bug? Is it a clothes moth? Is it a carpet beetle? Transmits that back up to our console, and then we do a final verification there using our AI system. And then if really needed, so our entomologist can verify those results. And then it gets sent out as an email alert to say, okay, you've got in room 216, here's a bed bug, here's the picture, it was detected last night at 2 a.m. and you can immediately get in and do something about it. And critically, as you said, Ralph, before the guest encounters them, before the guest.
Let me ask you a question that may seem a little bit a single question, simple question. I was going to say a stupid question, but then I don't ask stupid questions. It's a good question. Here it is. Why would a bed bug go into this machine?
Yeah. So the bed bugs, they like to find. So they're what's called cryptic, and they like to find places to hide. Basically, they like to be wedged in between things with other bugs.
We find them in crevices, in the seam of the bed. That's where we find them the most.
So this is designed, with the colors. So we've done, experiments looking at the visual range of bugs. What wavelengths can they see? What do they like? What textures do they like? This little crevice in here is basically as optimized as you can get for being attractive to a bug. And then on top of that, we have a pheromone in here that then draws them inside. That basically smells like other bugs. Bed bugs like to congregate in the same location because it's how they find each other to breed. So we mimic that in here, and that's the combination of being in the right place, looking the right shape, the right colors, the right textures, and then the pheromone on top of that all work together to get them inside.
So that pheromone is almost like a little calling card, or maybe like even a mating call.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So it's called an aggregation pheromone. So it is basically their signal to each other to say, hey guys, I found a great place to come and hide. Come and join me. And that's what we're mimicking there.
There seems to be an awful lot going on inside this. So let me just try to give it back to you so I can make sure I understand what you're saying. So we're going to put this at either the head or the foot of the bed. Which is better? Because the reason I ask.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Head end of the bed. Yeah.
At the foot of the head.
The head end.
The head end is better. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we normally see bite marks up the legs.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think that the legs would be where we would find, the foot, but you're saying the head. Okay.
Yeah, at least certainly in hotel applications where nearly always you're finding the bugs behind the headboard and head end of the box spring.
Got it. Okay.
Now, of course, if it's one of your listeners out there saying that's not true for us, I always find them at the foot end of the bed.
Well, then put this at the foot.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Put it where it's going to be right for your application. But in our experience, it's almost always the head end.
It doesn't smell like anything. So to me, it doesn't smell like anything. It has a little bit of a hospital smell, like a little antiseptic smell, but it's certainly not powerful. I got to stick my nose in it to smell it. So no smell. It's good. Put it at the head of the bed. There is a pheromone in here. Does the pheromone expire? Like, will it eventually no longer be?
This whole part comes off. That gets changed once a year.
Oh, okay.
There's the pheromone and the battery, and they both get changed once a year.
Oh, okay.
And you just click a new one on, and away you go.
Got it. Okay, so the pheromone does last a year.
Yeah.
The battery lasts a year.
Yeah. And what you've just done there, Ralph, in about 5 seconds, is the annual maintenance.
That's it. That was super easy.
You've just done it. Yeah, you've just done it. Take one off, put a new one on, and it's all that's all like part of the service. It's nothing extra. So that's it.
Okay, that's it. All right.
One room, one bed finished for a year.
Yeah, perfect. And then there's also a camera in here.
Yeah, internally. So
that's why I was saying there's a lot in here, a lot going on here.
Yes, yeah, you can only see inside the pod, just to reassure anyone who's worried about cameras in.
And we can actually show you if you want. We've actually got a picture here.
Is the next question is going to be: is my bed bug detector listening to me?
Yeah, no microphone.
But and basically, as you said then, Ralph, what does all of that do? Essentially, that gets you to, so why do we even need a camera? Why do we even need a vision system? Well, it's because actually there's a lot of things, there's a lot of insects around generally, and actually what we really care about is bed bugs. So there are, other
cockroaches, carpet beetles, there's all kinds of things that could get in there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We see a mix.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's specifically designed. As you said, there's a lot going on there. But basically, from a bedbug's point of view, when they get anywhere, when they're in the bed, this thing to them is kind of like, wow, there are loads of. If I go there are loads of other bed bugs, and it looks incredibly comfy. Everything about it is just perfect for me. I'm going to go there. And that's why basically we get such high detection rates. And that's why, to your point, Ralph, it's not good enough to detect them a week after your guest detects, and that's of no use whatsoever because your guest has already detected it. So our benchmark is, have you detected it before a guest detects it and before a housekeeper detects it? And that's where we've been very, very successful because it's designed to be so attractive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the picture, and forgive me, because I'm going to ask a couple of questions about bed bugs, because other than knowing that they're a reputation killer and a pain in the butt, I don't know much about them beyond that. Do they, how fast do they multiply? What, how much time between when you first get a detection,
sure,
how much time do you have before they're noticeable?
Yeah, so obviously the starting population makes a massive difference to that. A typical introduction might only be 2 or 3 bugs, but if you get a male and a female in there, the female can lay tens of eggs a day. They might lay, 1,000 eggs in their lifetime, something along those lines, and they are going to be putting them all over the place. So once they've started laying, it's hard to completely control it just by isolating the 1 or 2 bugs that are in there. Those eggs take about a week in normal room temperature. It's a bit shorter if it's hot, a bit longer if it's cold, but in normal room temperature, it's about 6 or 7 days before they hatch. And then they go through 5 stages of growth cycle, which are about 5 or 6 days each. So it takes all in all about a month to a month and a half for a new arrival to result in new adults ready to breed. But once you hit that point, then the population can really ramp up, because the new introduction might only be 2 or 3, but if you don't catch those 2 or 3 and they lay hundreds of eggs, by the time you realize there might well be thousands in there.
Got it.
You get these sort of, it doesn't follow a nice smooth curve. You get these big steps when individual generations mature and become adults. So
and that is really why this is such a great idea behind it, because in my experience, when we're being called to a room to clean for bed bugs, bed bugs are super tiny, and therefore they're very hard to see.
And they hide well.
Yeah, they hide really good, and so you're literally having to pull back the little corners and the edges and trying to get in all the little tight spots to see them. You bring it out. For me, I need glasses, so I got a little, a little eyeglass there. And when we're called, when we pull open the sheets, we pull back the little seams, there is thousands. It looks like a whole black mess in there because they're just full of them.
By that point, you've gone through at least one full cycle, maybe 2.
Oh,
maybe
no.
4. So the difference between, if you can catch one of those first 2 or 3, you're pretty much always buying yourself a month to 2 months earlier detection than if you were catching them when it was at the 100 stage or the 1,000.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you guys sell, or do you have a product for cleaning after bed bugs, or do you have any recommendations for how to care for bed bugs, or a bed bug infestation? Have you looked at that side of things at all? Is there any?
Yeah, we have. It's something we spent a lot of time thinking about. What's our strategy here? Classic. And there's a danger of overreaching and telling people how to do their job. We always came to this saying that the early warning, that's something where we can do something completely different to anything else out there. And while we've learned in the process an awful lot about different treatments and different protocols and how you manage this between different, controlling spread between rooms and what's a good inspection regime, we tend not actually to stick our noses in there, because usually we're talking to people who actually know more about that than we do.
Sure.
And I guess the other thing, Ralph, it does, as you'll know, it varies a lot depending on the setting, depending on the country. So we're talking to, VPs of operations in the Middle East who are, or let's say in Dubai, where there are particular regulations in place around inspection and around treatment and everything else, compared to Florida, compared to the UK, compared to Paris, wherever it may be. So we sort of said, look, let's do one thing really, really well. And actually let's let housekeepers, who, as you know, we have a lot of respect for housekeepers, let's let pest controllers do what they're really good at. But let's give them this tool to make their lives a lot easier. And then let's kind of get out of the way and make sure and give them the best possible chance of doing their best job.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, for my money, I think it's a very, very smart investment. I can't even imagine now that, it's like one of those things, once you know it exists, how do you live without it, right? That's really, really what it's like, because it makes all the sense in the world to me. So what's the strategy? Let's talk sales here. How are we getting this thing out? What are you guys going to do? What are you doing? Is there a mascot involved? Do you have a bed bug mascot? That'd be pretty cool.
I think about doing that at a show, actually. It was having someone to going around.
I think
Ralph,
I think you'd make a good bed bug, actually. I think you could try that.
Yeah, I could do that. I could do it.
You'd be a very friendly bed bug.
Are you currently having sales all over the world, or are you regional right now? Are you specific somewhere?
Yeah, good question. So right now, as you said, basically our key targets for this product is basically beds, right? But there's beds all over the place. So mostly the area where we think there's most promise is hotels. There's also then, as you said, care settings. There's also housing associations, and there's also actually just consumers' homes. Now at the moment, consumers' homes is too small and too fragmented for us to be able to deliver to, because it just, the scale doesn't work. So the main thing we're focusing on at the moment is hotels. But absolutely, we're getting a lot of interest from care homes, nursing homes, long-term care facilities. So then within hotels, it's okay, which hotels? Because as you know, there's every country in the world and all the sorts of different types of hotels. So at the moment, COVID is driving a lot of this. So in the UK and Europe, as I'm sure you'll know from the news, actually, occupancy and RevPAR are a long way below pre-pandemic levels. And we have a long way to go, and it's not really clear, what the hospitality industry will look like exactly, in months or years' time. In the US, the picture is somewhat different. As you know, the data all shows, especially places like Florida and Nevada, California, some real hotspots where there's hotels are doing really, really well. So we're focusing on, we don't want to waste hotels' time. So often we'll talk to a hotel in Europe or the UK, and they'll say, look, we could really use this, but just not right now because we haven't got any guests, or we've only got 20% occupancy. So you know what? Come back to me in a little while. Whereas in the US, actually, the different message is, of course we have bedbug problems, absolutely. We've got them right now, and by the way, occupancy is 90%, or this weekend we're at 100% occupancy, or whatever it may be. And actually, it's a case of, look, how can we? Basically, where do they want to try it first, and then how do they roll it out? So at the moment, we're focusing on the US mostly, somewhat in the Middle East, especially Dubai. So there's a very large international expo starting in Dubai in October, and many hotels there actually are at 95 or 98% occupancy on an annual basis anyway. They're just really, really busy, really large hotels. So so really there. And actually, as you said, Rob, one thing about, is this suitable for, luxury hotels or motels, or what is it? What's the and actually, honestly, we don't charge different amounts of money depending on how upscale or budget your hotel is. It's just we just charge what it is. So clearly it's relatively cheaper for a luxury hotel, but actually a lot of the interest has come from mid-scale or budget or economy hotels, where actually they know this is a problem, and actually reputation is everything to them, just as much as it is for your your top 5-star hotels. So it's really a range of hotels. We generally focus on hotels above 200 rooms. That's sort of, if it's very small hotels of 20, 30, 40 rooms, actually it's quite costly for us to just install into them.
Sure.
But even budget hotels that are 150 rooms, actually they've run. We have an ROI calculator where they can just put all their numbers in, and it tells them, look, will you save money with this? And it checks out really well for budget hotels that have even really pretty low levels of bedbug problems.
I got to tell you that as I'm listening to you and I talk about it, and I'm looking at the product, and I'm thinking about the cleaning industry and some of the challenges that we're going through right now, and it's not a new challenge for us, but staffing has always been a big challenge for us, and that's what's so fantastic about new technologies in cleaning, when you're able to find a new technology that reduces the amount of time you need to spend cleaning, disinfecting. Something as basic. I had a friend on the show, and he was talking about new technologies, and he talked about backpack vacuums, and I actually laughed at him. I laughed out loud because it seems like an old technology, a backpack vacuum. But I remember when backpack vacuums first started to make their play in the cleaning industry, it was really revolutionary. The idea that you can strap on a vacuum on the back of your and walk around cord free. What it did was it didn't clean any better. Right? Sure. It didn't make buildings cleaner. It made it so the job was easier and faster for the cleaner. Yeah. And now, as we continue to go down this road where we're continuing to having to work with less staff, which means we have to figure out better ways to utilize our time. There's this is not just great technology for bed bug detection. This is a great technology for resource management. This is a resource management tool where we can go, all right, where do we have to spend our extra time? Because without this, and I have a bed bug infestation, and I say, all right, hey, on the 3rd floor in room 313, there's complaints of bed bugs. Let's go clean that room. We don't clean that room. We go, let's clean the entire 3rd floor. Let's maybe also do some extra cleaning on the 2nd and the 4th floor because we don't know how widespread it is. This tells us how widespread it is. This tells us exactly where we need to put our focus. This enables us to use our resources, i.e. our staff, more effectively, more appropriately. And I think that can't be overlooked. As with any technology in the cleaning industry that helps us do more with less, have a bigger impact, right? Like I think that also needs to be mentioned here, that this piece of technology is also really, really helpful in our battle with staffing right now.
Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. It's something great. I mean, there was an article in the New York Times just a couple of days ago, which is exactly your point, Ralph, which is guests want cleaner rooms, but they don't want to see a housekeeper.
How dare you? Who said that?
Yeah. So how's it going to get cleaned magically by a robot? No, because that doesn't work. So you're exactly right. There are some tasks which actually, you know what? There are some tasks which, as you said, the backpack vacuum actually didn't clean any better, but it enabled them to get the job done more efficiently, right? Yeah. This actually is an interesting one because, as you said, bedbugs are really hard to spot, and bedbug eggs are practically impossible to spot. Not completely impossible, but they're, by the time you actually strip an entire bed and you're searching all the crevices, you cannot do that for every bed in a room in any useful routine way. It's impractical. Yeah. I mean, even in Dubai, there is a regulation that must be done every quarter, every 3 months, right? But that is just not practical in many cases, and especially with stuff.
And even if you do it, you get a lot of bugs in 3 months. So
I didn't know there was a regulation that you had to deep clean a room every 3 months.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's a sensible thing because
it's interesting. We do it more often than that here in the U.S., but I don't know that there's even a regulation that says you have to do it.
Yeah. And then that's the thing. Then you got to say, well, look, what is better? Is it better to have a human looking through the mattresses, which is, as you know, it's such a manual, physical task. It means they can't do another whole load of things on their job list. Or actually, should we put this little pod there that is doing this 24/7 for us with no further input? No checking. We don't need to tell it to do anything. We don't need to. It's going to turn up every day. It's going to sit there, and it's just going to do its job. And then actually, as you said, that leaves, the skilled, experienced housekeepers to manage this big challenge, which is how do we do all the other things on our job list, and actually, which is just such a tough challenge for hospitality. So
I completely agree, and I love it. I think it's super smart. I really do. I think it's very. What's next? I mean, I can imagine this application would work for cockroaches, ants.
I mean, insects affect a massive range of different areas. I mean, even outside the ones that we all know about, is from a domestic and residential setting. About 10% of all the food that gets grown in the world doesn't make it off the field because of insects. So we see that they directly contribute to big wildfires, for example. So bark beetles destroying hillsides of trees and leaving them as brown tinder to go up in flames. That insect's directly playing into that. So
and it's possible to have an early detection system so you can get out there before they eat everything, which happens very fast.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do projects, as well as our stuff, as well as what we do in this space. We have products for forestry, for example. So we're working with the UK government to address a pest that destroys thick end of 1 million new plant trees every year and protect them. And obviously the carbon impact of that is potentially huge, of keeping those trees alive. So and they're going to roughly halve their insecticide use through early warning and being able to target where they're going with this technology.
I love this because I'm sure you guys know, but I'm a business strategist. It's what I do for a living, and I work in cleaning. So I'm a cleaning business strategist. And so I'm always talking shop, and we're always trying to figure out how to both stay in your lane and expand. And sometimes what that takes is an outsider's look to understand exactly what your lane is. Yeah. And I'm reminded as you're talking about Bic, the Bic company. They make lighters, pens, disposable razors. So for forever, they were a stationary company. So they made pens, disposable pens. That was what the Bic company made, just pens. And they were in the stationary business. And they were really struggling to grow their stationary business. And so they hired an outside consultant, a business strategist, someone far smarter than I, but someone in my same field. And they sat down and they kind of looked at their whole business plan. And they came out and they said, you're not in the stationary business. you are actually in the disposable plastics business.
Yeah.
And once BIC started to understand that they're actually in the disposable plastics business, they now were like, wait a minute, okay. Now they come out with BIC disposable razors. They came out with disposable lighters, right? They're more known for lighters at this point, I think, than anything else, right? And that came from that whole idea that their actual lane is in the disposable plastics. And I think your actual lane is not in bed bug detection, but in what you said as you started this whole process, Robert, is in that small, low power detection system.
And automated. It's that fit
automated, exactly.
That getting back to that, all insects, it's that exponential curve. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a grain weevil in a silo, or a bed bug in a bedroom, or a carpet moth in a textile factory, or an aphid in a wheat field. It's the same principle applies across all of those. That early detection brings that right back, cuts that right back, and lets you get in and do something targeted and early before it spreads.
So smart. The amount of industries.
Yeah.
You guys are sitting on $1 trillion right now. Gotta get Arron out there and start.
I know. I don't know what I'm talking to you for, Ralph. You're wasting my time there.
How dare you? We have people from India watching right now. We have people.
I don't think he was being serious.
I wasn't being serious. It's always a joy to talk to you.
I know. I appreciate that. As a matter of fact, I got to tell you, if there's a place that I'm a fan of, it is India. Their hotels over there and their housekeeper managers over there. I mean, they're just some of the best in the world. I mean, they're really, really great.
Yeah.
Love that place.
Yeah.
And so what is next? Where are you guys headed to next? What's the next push? And I don't mean with you, Robert, as far as your next big discovery. I mean with the bed bug early detection system.
Yeah.
How can people get a hold of you? Oh wait, before we even get into that, and I apologize.
Okay.
Can we see the back end, the software piece of it? Can you share? Let's do a screen share. I'm going to change the view here.
You can do that. Yeah, totally.
I really want to see the interface.
Can you see this?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Let me change. Hold on. I'm going to add. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what we're seeing here. This is the interface for this bed bug detection system.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So this is a page that you can see a bunch of pages on here, but this is the main one that most people want to see, which is actually the record of what have we caught. So these are all real detections from real properties. We just anonymize the names because our customers prefer not to be identified when they
of course.
But in each of these, you can click into these and you can see that at this time on this date in this room, there you go. There is two nice clear pictures showing exactly.
Wow.
And that's been detected and identified with this this level of probability, and you can see what other alerts have happened in this room and what other rooms in the vicinity have been triggered recently. And you were mentioning before, so, the other things we get here. So this is for example, we've got a carpet beetle in here in this one. Get a variety of different things, but
your AI software does a pretty good job of identifying whether it's a bed bug or a cockroach.
If it's ever not sure, it always flags it for our entomologist to check as well. So these things are not being sent out as guesswork. It's if there's ever any real uncertainty about it, it's getting checked by someone who really knows.
Yeah. And again, to your point, Ralph, that's because look, if we're in a hotel, I'm sitting at the front desk. What I do not want is 100 pictures every morning from which I need to figure out what is a beetle, what is
of course,
is nothing, what is a bit of dust, right? I just need to know where the bed bugs are right now and in which rooms, and I'm going to go and fix that. And that's all I need to know. So that's all we want. That's all we we want to tell people that straight away.
Yeah, and then in here, so one of the things about this is while this page, obviously our users can log into this whenever they like. They can have a look through, can see whether their pods are online and how things are all running. But actually, the way most people interact with this is that whenever an alert like this is raised, it gets sent as an email. So you get an email, and that can be to whichever members of staff you say. You can choose. You just give us the names, tell us whoever you want to add to that. And it gets circulated around, so that might be head of housekeeping, head of maintenance, perhaps your pest controller, whoever needs to know. That gets sent out, so you don't need to be logging in and checking this, regularly.
I love that. I love that. Everybody now has a cell phone on them. Everybody's hooked, linked right into their email. You get that notification. Hey, notification alert. We found something. You run to your computer, you open up your email, and
it's there.
Yeah. Exactly.
So great.
Yeah. So it really
so great. The only thing we need you to do now is come clean it for us.
You raised this earlier, Ralph, about how
I know.
Where do we get involved in here? And one of the things I didn't mention actually there is that we do have a partner program where we work with specialist cleaning companies and pest control companies who are our partners, who will go and support in a local area. I mean, a lot of properties, of course, already have those relationships pre-existing, and that's absolutely fine. Send the email to them and they can come and deal with it. But if you don't already have someone, we do have a list of partners of people who can really help with the next step of what happens after an alert.
Love this. Absolutely love it. It's so super smart. So smart. And I like the idea of partnering up with, I like the idea of a white paper. I mean, I know that you don't have every answer on every regulation on how to handle bed bugs, but I also like some kind of information on bed bugs. And if you're building the early bed bug detection system, I want you also to tell me what to be looking for, how to handle it,
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about having a system like this is that there are big network effects.
100%.
The more people are using it, the more we're going to be able to help everybody manage this program better, because we talk to all of our customers all the time, and knowing, okay, so we tried this new protocol here. Okay, that's interesting. How did it pan out? Did it prevent a repeat occurrence in that case, or this new treatment that's come on the market? People can actually go back through their data and see what's working and what's not, and improve on best practice in a way you can do all of that manually, but it's hard when you don't have the data at your fingertips of what's happened in the past.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I'm just racking my head. I'm just thinking, will there be a day we don't have bed bugs? I mean, is this going to eradicate? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
It would be good. I mean, the first goal is to have fewer bed bugs.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think, and if we continue to have fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer, I mean, there will always be. I think it's. I don't think this. Basically, can we have fewer bed bugs to the point at which, as you said, Ralph, there will always be some bed bugs somewhere in the world, somewhere on people, on whatever it may be. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to be in a situation where it's just random, it's just whack-a-mole. And the odds are completely stacked against you because you have no way of actually knowing when you're going to get when it's going to hit. So I think it's just a case of the hotels that have used the system have found a huge reduction in the number of bed bug complaints they have. So the figure that we typically use is a reduction by about 90% of bed bugs.
Holy moly! Yeah, that's clear. That's close enough to zero.
Yeah, so that's the thing, exactly. Yeah. So, can we eliminate it? No. Even in 5-star hotels, the waiter will occasionally drop a plate, right? You can't prevent these things. Things will happen. And these are real living creatures. So we can't dictate, we can't program the creatures to do exactly what we want. But, as far as we can, a 90% reduction in complaints is pretty good.
Yeah.
And the other thing, actually, we didn't mention, Ralph, which I'm sure you've seen this a lot, is in the US is litigation, is the legal cost, the settlements when someone does get bitten, and then there's medical bills, and there's, even as soon as you appoint an attorney, US hotels say to us, well, look, as soon as I have to appoint an attorney, it's $10,000 straight away before they've even done anything. So, if you're reducing the complaints by 90%, you're reducing the interactions with a guest by 90%, the bed bug interaction with the guest by 90%. The hotels that we work with and we talk to say to us, well, look, we're going to have fewer complaints, we're going to have fewer settlements. Yeah. We're going to spend less on and it's tens of thousands of dollars each time that they're spending on settling these cases. So that's just a whole thing that completely that those savings just absolutely are just so much bigger than the cost and effort required to install the system that some hotels look at it and they just say, look, we just need to. Yeah, it just makes sense. Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I agree, and I would also say that as a person who travels a lot and goes to hotels a lot, what I want from the hotel is a carefree experience.
Yeah.
I don't. And it's bed bugs are one aspect. I don't even want the coffee to be cold, right?
Yeah.
I just want keep it simple. It doesn't have to be the over the top glorious. It just has to be clean and simple. And I certainly don't want to take home anything I didn't bring.
Yeah.
No.
Unless it's a souvenir I purchased.
Shampoo. We'll take the little bottle of shampoo. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would there be ever a time, Robert, do you think does it make sense, or is it even possible now, if a customer purchased this and they asked to be notified whenever anything was in the machine?
Yeah, it does that. So actually, I didn't show you that page on the console, but basically there's a set of tick boxes. Tell me about bed bugs, tell me about cockroaches, tell me about
Oh my gosh, that's really...
This particular pod is designed for bed bugs. As we said, it's got the pheromone for bed bugs, it's in the place for bed bugs. In the future, are we going to be rolling out other products for other insects? Can you have another one that goes in your food prep areas for cockroaches? Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't exist yet, but it's coming.
Yep. That is... We'll get on it quickly. There's a lot of people listening to this show.
Yeah.
There's that old adage: whatever can be created will be created, right?
Yeah.
Speed sometimes is of essence. That's fantastic. That's the only thing I was thinking. I was like, man, if there are all these things that are going in and out of this trap, because cockroaches. I don't know how well you know cockroaches. I grew up with cockroaches, and trust me when I say they get into every tight spot that's imaginable. And so I imagine if you put this under a mattress, a cockroach is going to find it. And for whatever reason, they're going to find it. And I would just love to know. I mean, imagine getting that early detection system for a cockroach. I mean, those things multiply just as fast and as furious as bed bugs, I think.
Well, we've seen that, and other pests over here, some of the hotels we're in now, because they've been empty for a while and the rooms haven't been being cleaned as regularly as they normally would, because the staff are on furlough and they're under new guests. Mm-hmm. They've seen big rates coming through on our console, big rates of carpet beetles, and they're now thinking about we're going to have to replace the curtains, the carpets, but because they've been able to see that during that period, it's not really what it was intended to detect, but it's given them that extra protection over the last 12 months of actually, we should go in and check that, because otherwise there's potentially thousands of dollars per room of damage that needs to be replaced before we can reopen.
Yeah, and again, the reputation piece. I mean, you can't even sometimes calculate how much you lose over the reputation piece.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a guest point of view, if it's got 6 legs, sometimes even if it's got 8 legs and it's in a bed, it's a bed bug. Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
It doesn't matter. It's an insect. It's in the bed. It's a bed bug.
Good point. Good point.
And actually, Rob, you said it's difficult to calculate the reputation bit, and you're quite right. It is difficult, but we've done our own calculations. We've got our own analysis based, and we've done our own research, and we've used some some statistics that we've scraped from various websites and what have you. So we've been able to if a given hotel comes to us and they say, look, we have this number of bed bug incidents in a year, we can tell, and this is our room rate, this is our occupancy. We can tell them based on a set of very straightforward, transparent calculations what we think the reputational cost is, and it's, as you said, it's huge. It's far higher than the cost of actually treating the bed bug in the first at all. Because you said you lose the loyalty and all these other things. So if actually you have listeners who are thinking, I have these problems, but you know what, my GM will never would never go for this because it's never going to be cost effective. And say, well, hang on, let's have a chat, run some numbers, and actually you might be really surprised. And, we haven't actually mentioned. So this is about very crudely, very good rough rule of thumb is it's about 14 cents a day per bed per pod. So it's 1 4 cents. So that's less than a dime and a nickel, isn't it? 14 cents per bed per day, which is we're finding hotels understand that is a lot less than the cost of reputational damage.
Certainly.
You don't have many regular guests cutting up their loyalty cards.
Yeah.
To cover that. Yeah.
So let's just let me just ask you about that to be more clear about it. Does a customer purchase each one of these, individually, or are they purchasing a service and they get these in addition to the service? So you buy a service and the service comes with how long is a subscription plan? Is it a year? Is it month to month? What is it? How do you get these things?
Yeah, so it's a subscription, and basically it's a subscription. It's about, again, depending on volume, depending on length of contract, it's about 14 cents a day. It can be quite a bit less than that if it's a much larger volume, much bigger hotels and longer initial terms. And the reason we do that is because we don't want hotels to have to worry about exactly how to deploy this stuff and the number of, and there's some other kit that goes with it in the hotel, which is very simple, but actually the hotel doesn't have to worry about how to install that. Our partners do a lot of that work. So really, we try to make it as simple as possible for hotels. You pay the service, and we deal with the technology, and then you get the alerts. So that's because, as we understand it, that's all they want. They don't want to be managed.
Certainly.
And the things like the consumable we talked about there, we showed you earlier that the clips on and off. That's not charged separately. It's just you get a box of those when it's time to change them. It's all just included.
It's all included.
Got it. So essentially, if I have a 200-bed hotel.
Yeah.
And I wanna get these. What's the minimum barrier entry? So I'm like, hey, do I sign a year contract? You're going to send me 200 of these with instructions, or you're going to send somebody with them and they're going to install them. I mean, I imagine, again, I work in cleaning and I work with maintenance guys. We could install these pretty easily. It's a sticky pad that goes under the mattress.
You peel that off, you lift the mattress up and put it down.
Exactly. It doesn't seem like you have to come from England to show us.
As nice as it is to see you, that's not the intention.
No, I appreciate that. No, how dare you? I'm going to come to England just to have dinner with you guys. Are you kidding me?
You're very welcome.
Yeah, you can do that. Well, we have So basically, as Robert mentioned, we have local partners who are generally pest controllers across the US and in some other parts of the world, who basically do exactly what you just described. So let's say a hotel talks to us. They say, okay, we want to, we've got 500 rooms. There's then basically, their assumption is, look, I'm always going to have bed bugs. Bed bugs are always going to be a problem. So the question is, how long should the initial term of the contract be? So it's a bit like, if you sign up for your internet at home, you always know you will need internet, but you can choose to lock in a lower price for a certain amount of time. So we say, look, you can lock it in for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. If you choose to lock in a price for 5 years, it's a much lower daily rate, basically.
Got it.
Actually, I'm only going to lock it in for 1 year. It's a much higher daily rate, and that's pretty logical. And then, as you said, at that point, we actually ship all the pods pre-configured. So each pod has a label on it which says which room it's going to, and it knows it's going into that room. And there is no further setup that needs to be done. So it goes. So you don't need to. There's no programming. There's no one on a laptop trying to do this, that, and the other. The pod says, I want to go into room 102. They put it in room 102, they click the cartridge in, and it comes online. I
apologize. I didn't even consider that piece of it. You're absolutely right. It has to be. We have to know what room it's in.
Yeah. It has to know where it is. And so
very smart.
There's one other piece of kit, which, again, hotels don't need to worry about because we just supply it. They don't need to pay anything for it. It's just another piece of kit which basically talks to all these pods. Because Robert mentioned earlier, these don't use Wi-Fi. So the pods talk to each other using a different type of network, and we supply basically a little router for that type of network. So it has its own router, it talks to itself using its own frequencies, nothing to do with guests, nothing to do with Wi-Fi. And then those little routers that we provide, there's about, if it's a 500-room hotel, there'll probably be 2 or 3 of them. They then talk back to us. So they're the ones that talk back to us. And that's the details. That's kind of like, under the hood, but really hotels don't need to worry about that because we just make it work. That's the thing.
I'm so impressed with this product. I'm so impressed with what you created here, Robert, and what you're selling here, Arron.
Well, that's good. It'd be quite embarrassing if you weren't.
Yeah, no, we talked. You reached out to me. I don't even know, a month and a half ago or something.
Like yeah.
And right when you said, "Hey, we have a product where we're detecting bed bugs, early detection for bed bugs," I was like, "Huh? That's a thing?"
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
I've been intrigued and impressed since you even mentioned the idea that it's possible. So I'm so happy that my listeners and the people that I work with and are able to hear about this technology, because I think it's great. I think it's super smart technology. How you even came up with this. You said you and your partner Neil, is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Neil. Big shout out to Neil because
absolutely,
it's just so smart, and I wouldn't have even thought, and I, not that I would have thought of anything, but I wouldn't have never even thought of early detection. I'm on the other side. I'm like, how to react to bed bugs.
Sure.
You guys are like, no, let's get ahead of this. And so it's very smart. And if anybody wants to find out more about this product and how to get it, where do they go? How do they reach out to you, Arron?
Sure. So they can go to www.spotta.co. Spotta is SPOTTA.co.
Yeah,
it's on the bottom of our
over there
thing.
I got it. Spotta.co. And it'll be in the show notes. In the show notes, there'll be links to all the social media as well as your website.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. They can direct message me. They can even direct message you, Ralph.
They certainly direct message me. That's right. That's the best way to go about it. Contact me. I will put you in contact with these fine gentlemen.
The main thing is, as you said, if people are thinking, you know what, this is a new thing, not sure if the cost will work out. Well, we'll be very transparent with you. We'll show all of the numbers. And you can figure it out. You take it to your COO, you take it to your GM, you take it to your VP of Ops, and have the conversation. It's no problem.
We're talking about 14 cents per unit a day. We're not talking about a lot of money here, and that is potentially on a monthly basis for if you're talking about a 200, 300 bed hospital or nursing home or even a hotel. You're talking about it covers the cost of one very short stay that you would be losing if you had bed bugs.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you had a reputation that you're a dirty hotel because of bed bugs.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the way we think about it is how much does that little bottle of shampoo cost you, or how much does that little bottle of hand sanitizer cost you that the customer walks away, right? Probably more than 14 cents. So that's just to put it into perspective. Of course, things do add up, but then again, the cost, the losses add up as well as the costs. So.
1,000,000%. I think I definitely back this product. I definitely think this is a great idea. I definitely am interested in telling everybody I know about the product because you guys all know my story and where my position. I'm on the side of housekeeping. I'm on the side of the cleaner.
Absolutely.
And we're the ones who are getting looked down at because, this place has bed bugs, as if we brought them in. Again, people think we have an Amazon order for